The Bible is basically a collection of religious texts or scriptures that are holy in Christianity, Judaism, Samaritanism, and many other religions. It is an anthology, which is a collection of texts that were originally written in Hebrew, Aramaic, and Koine Greek. But is there any part that we still don't know about? Would you believe it if we told you that there are some lost chapters of a Bible that is 2,000 years old and that they contain some of the most terrifying information about how humans came to be? Today we're going to talk about the books that were forbidden from the Bible. So what are we waiting for? Let's begin. The first book is the Book of Adam and Eve. The Book of Adam and Eve details what happened to Adam and Eve after they were expelled from the Garden of Eden. It is speculated that this book is a pseudepigrapha that was written after the canonical biblical books. Now you must be thinking, what is pseudepigrapha, right? Well, pseudepigrapha is a work that has been incorrectly credited, meaning that the person claiming to be the author of the work is not actually the author of the work that has been written. The book that tells the story of Adam and Eve was initially written in Arabic, but when it made its way south, it eventually became written in English. After that, in the 19th century, it was translated into Ethiopian, but the current edition is English. The Book of Adam and Eve was divided into two parts, both of which directly contradict the Bible. The Book of Adam and Eve was made up of two books, both of which contain direct contradictions to the Bible. The book claims that Cain and Abel both brought blood and grain sacrifices, contradicting Genesis chapter 4 verse 3, which states that Cain brought a bloodless offering while Abel brought fat portions from his flock's firstborn. The book has been rejected by the Bible. And the next book is the Book of Enoch. You may have heard of the name Enoch in the Bible, but the Book of Enoch is a mysterious book. The Book of Enoch is a pseudepigrapha, which means it was written under a fake name. Pseudepigraphas worked with false authorship. There are 4 different people named Enoch in the Bible, but it's important to note that only the New International Version or NIV uses the name Hanok. Other translations use the name Enoch. Enoch is what Hanok means in Hebrew. Some translations spell the name differently, like Hancock or Hanok. Adam's great-great-great-great-great-grandson was Enoch. Genesis chapter 5 verse 22 to 24 says, "After he had Methuselah, Enoch walked faithfully with God for 300 years and had other sons and daughters. Enoch lived for 365 years altogether. Enoch walked with God in a righteous way, and then God took him away." Noah was also Enoch's great-great-grandson. Most people think that Elijah and Enoch are best known for being taken away. This is an interesting fact. Both men were the only ones in the Bible who were chosen by God to stay alive. This seems to have been given to Enoch because he walked faithfully with God and made God happy. The Bible doesn't say why God took Enoch to heaven, but most people think it was so that he could be one of the 2 witnesses in the end times. The other witness is thought to be Elijah, who was a prophet. As we've said earlier, even though the Book of Enoch is said to have been written by Enoch, that doesn't mean it was written by him, was inspired by God, or should be in the Bible. It's interesting to note that no scholar really thinks that Enoch himself wrote the Book of Enoch. The Book of Enoch is not only considered to be pseudepigraphal writing, but also an apocryphal writing. Apocryphal writings means that they should be true and right, but it's not true and is often wrong about history. When you read apocryphal texts, you should think of them as historical texts that could be wrong. In contrast, the Bible should be taken as the inspired, infallible, and authoritative Word of God. The third book that was not included in the Bible is the Psalms of Solomon. Solomon's Psalms were discovered in the 17th century by a German librarian, long after they had been thought to have been lost for generations. Scholars have discovered that the original Psalms were written in Hebrew. Even if copies of the Psalms were able to be preserved in Greek in Zurich, the originals were most likely written in Hebrew. Psalms of Solomon is one of the works that are regarded as pseudepigrapha, which indicates that the book was not truly composed by the legendary King Solomon himself. Even if it's claimed that he wrote the Psalms contained in this book, the fact that it's a work of fiction disqualifies it from being considered part of the Bible's canon. Psalms of sadness, Psalms of wisdom, and hymns are just a few of the different types of psalms that are included in the book. Additionally, the book has components of both individual and community psalms. In general, the Psalms of Solomon explain how the suffering of the people is justified by the sins they have committed. They also indicate how those who are faithful are people who are capable of wrongdoing, and rather than avoiding the trouble, acknowledge their terrible deeds to atone for what they've done. The next lost chapter of the Bible is the rest of Esther. It is believed that an Egyptian Jew wrote the chapters that were later removed from the book of Esther. These chapters were added around 170 BC. The goal is to infuse more religion into the Bible and to emphasize the central role that religion plays in the salvation of the Jewish people. The new information brought about a dramatic shift in the tone of the book, and as a result, it was not included in the final edition. This is a strong indication that many of the missing portions from the Bible were left out with the intention of strengthening the trustworthiness of the facts and placing greater emphasis on the message that God was trying to convey. Many of the books that were removed had never even been referenced by Jesus. They were all destroyed. This is true for every piece of apocryphal literature that has ever been written. The fifth book that has been removed from the Bible is the book of Maccabees. The first and second books of Maccabees provide the most comprehensive chronicles of Judah Maccabee and his brothers' campaigns to free Judea from foreign rule. Not only does the well-known tale of the mother and her 7 boys appear in these texts, but so do the earliest written accounts of Hanukkah and the rededication of the temple. These 2 books aren't present in the Hebrew Bible, though. The uprising of the Maccabean family against Antiochus Epiphanes, ruler of Syria, is recounted in the books of Maccabees. In the centuries following the destruction of the temple and the fall of Jerusalem, Jewish academics relocated to the city of Jamnia due to their own unsuccessful uprising against the Romans. They found themselves in this predicament. Possibly they deemed it counterproductive to publicize a text that predicted the successful conclusion of a Jewish uprising. Maybe it was dangerous on the inside as much as the outside. The Romans would likely frown upon the spread of such a book, since it may reintroduce the idea of insurrection to a populace struggling to recover from the catastrophic effects of its own failed attempts. The basic passages regarding Hanukkah were not included in the biblical canon, which is ironic given that this internal-external struggle is at the heart of the story and may have been what prevented them from being included in the first place. The books of Maccabees have value even though they were left out of the Hebrew Bible. But even this is tricky in a traditional Jewish setting because of another layer of history. The Greek Septuagint was a translation of the Hebrew Bible into Greek for the Jewish population of Alexandria. It included the books of 1st and 2nd Maccabees. Still, the Septuagint was adopted as a canonical Bible of the early Christian church. The Jewish people at the time resented its attempt of authoritativeness. Other than their inclusion in the Christian canon, the books of Maccabees would have been lost throughout the years. However, after being canonized by Christians, these texts were forgotten by the Jewish community for centuries. And that's all we have for today. Please hit that like button and sign up for our channel if you enjoyed this video. For now, we must part ways until the next video.